Hey there, MrQuora here. Welcome to another episode of Did You Always Wanted to Know? In today's video we will get to know about some of the interesting paradoxes. Sounds interesting, isn't it? So why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, to encourage me to keep bringing such interesting videos for you. By the way, if you are new to this channel, please click that subscribe button, and do not forget to also click that bell icon as well, to get notifications of all our upcoming videos. Oh, by the way, if you subscribe to this channel and write subscribed in the comments below, I will give you a shout out in one of my next videos. Now it is time to get started then. Let's first understand what is a paradox. As per Wikipedia, a paradox, also known as an antinomy, is a logically self-contradictory statement or a statement that runs contrary to one's expectation. It is a statement that, despite apparently valid reasoning from true premises, leads to a seemingly self-contradictory or a logically unacceptable conclusion. In more simpler world, a paradox is a seemingly absurd or contradictory statement or proposition which when investigated may prove to be well-founded or true. For example, the Barber Paradox, a male barber shaves all and only those men who don't shave themselves. Does he shave himself? Now let's look at a few interesting paradoxes in this video. Achilles and the Tortoise Paradox. In the paradox of Achilles and the tortoise, Achilles is in a footrace with the tortoise. Achilles allows the tortoise a head start of 100 feet. If we suppose that each racer starts running at some constant speed, that is one very fast and one very slow, then after some finite time, Achilles will have run 100 feet, bringing him to the tortoise's starting point. During this time, the tortoise has run a much shorter distance, say 10 feet. It will then take Achilles some further time to run that distance, by which time the tortoise will have advanced farther, and then more time still to reach this third point, while the tortoise moves ahead. Thus, whenever Achilles reaches somewhere the tortoise has been, he still has farther to go. Therefore, because there are an infinite number of points Achilles must reach where the tortoise has already been, he can never overtake the tortoise. Of course, simple experience tells us that Achilles will be able to overtake the tortoise, which is why this is a paradox. The Barbers Paradox. Suppose there is a town with just one male barber, and that every man in the town keeps himself clean-shaven, some by shaving themselves, some by attending the barber's shop. It seems reasonable to imagine that the barber obeys the following rule: he shaves all and only those men in town who do not shave themselves. Under this scenario, we can ask the following questions: does the barber shave himself? Asking this, however, we discover that the situation presented is in fact impossible. Because, if the barber does not shave himself, he must abide by the rule and shave himself. Or, if he does shave himself, according to the rule he will not shave himself. The unexpected hanging paradox. A judge tells a condemned prisoner that he will be hanged at noon on one weekday in the following week, but that the execution will be a surprise to the prisoner. He will not know the day of the hanging until the executioner knocks on his cell door at noon that day. Having reflected on his sentence, the prisoner draws the conclusion that he will escape from the hanging. His reasoning is in several parts. He begins by concluding that the surprise hanging can't be on a Friday, as if he hasn't been hanged by Thursday, there is only one day left, and so it won't be a surprise if he's hanged on a Friday. Since the judge's sentence stipulated that the hanging would be a surprise to him, he concludes it cannot occur on Friday. He then reasons that the surprise hanging cannot be on Thursday either, because Friday has already been eliminated, and if he hasn't been hanged by Wednesday night, the hanging must occur on Thursday, making a Thursday hanging not a surprise either. By similar reasoning he concludes that the hanging can also not occur on Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday. Joyfully he retires to his cell confident that the hanging will not occur at all. The next week, the executioner knocks on the prisoner's door at noon on Wednesday, which, despite all the above, will still be an utter surprise to him. Everything the judge said has come true. Hilbert's Paradox of the Grand Hotel. Long ago, in a land far away, there was a grand hotel where there were infinitely many rooms. This hotel was attended by a brilliant manager. One night, a guest arrived, but the hotel was full, each room was occupied by one guest. The newly arrived guest asked if a spare room was available. Of course we are the Infinite Grand Hotel. There is always a room for everyone, the manager said proudly. Now since each room was occupied by a guest, the manager requested the guest in room 1 to move to room 2, the guest in room 2 to move to room 3, the guest in room 3 to move to room 4, and so on. Basically, he told every guest in room N to move to room N+1. Since the hotel had infinitely many rooms, there was no problem in moving, there was always a room to move to. This left room 1 vacant, and therefore, the guest was accommodated. The guest was happy. The manager was happy. The next night, a bus of 60 passengers arrived and they asked for one room for each passenger. The same thing happened. The manager requested the guest in room 1 to move to room 61, the guest in room 2 to move to room 62, and every guest in room N to move to room N+60. Since the hotel had infinitely many rooms, there was no problem in moving, there was always a room to move to. This left 60 rooms vacant and therefore the hotel accommodated the 60 new guests. Everybody was happy. The manager was happy. The next night, a bus infinitely long with an infinite number of passengers arrived. This looked like a big problem, but the manager shrugged it off. He requested the guest from room 1 to move to room 2, the guest from room 2 to move to room 4, the guest from room 3 to move to room 6 and all the guests in room N to move to room 2N. The guests didn't mind moving. This left all the rooms with odd numbers vacant. After everybody had moved, the manager assigned every passenger to the odd-numbered rooms. He assigned passenger 1 to room 1, passenger 2 to room 3, passenger 3 to room 5, and passenger N to room 2N1. Since there are countably infinitely many odd numbers, and countably infinitely many rooms, the passengers can be assigned in one-to-one correspondence with the odd-numbered rooms. There was no problem of moving in, there's always a room for everyone. Everybody had a room and everybody was happy. The manager was happy. Infinite buses, each with infinite number of passengers. The next night, an infinite number of buses arrived, each of which had an infinite number of passengers. This looked like a very big problem. The manager thought about it for a while. After a little bit of thought, the manager remembered from his math class that there are infinitely many primes. So, he thought that he could assign each bus to a prime number. He cleverly made the following room assignment scheme. 1. He assigned all the guests in the hotel to the prime number 2. Then, he told the guest in room 1 to move to room 2 to the power 1, or room 2, the guest in room 2 to move to room 2 to the power 2, or room 4, the guest in room 3 to move room 2 to the power 3, or room N, to move to room 2 to the power N. So, the guest at room 10 goes to room 2 to the power 10. Or room 1024. Number 2. Next, he assigned bus 1 to the second prime number which is 3, bus 2 to the third prime number which is 5, bus 3 to the fourth prime number, and bus N to the N+1. With infinitely many prime numbers, all the buses can be assigned in one-to-one correspondence with the prime numbers as shown in the previous diagram. Number 3. Lastly, just like in 1, each guest in each bus was assigned to the room number which is a power of prime, the prime number in which the bus is assigned to. For example, what is the room number of passenger 3 in bus 4? Bus 4 is assigned to the fifth prime number which is 11. This means that the passenger 3 goes to room 11 to the power 3, or room 1331. What is the room number of the 12th passenger? So, each bus had a corresponding prime number and each passenger number had a corresponding power of prime. This means that each passenger in all the buses had a room in the hotel. Everybody was happy. The hotel was occupied by guests from infinite number of buses, but surprisingly, there were still vacant rooms in the hotel. Notice that the room that were occupied were rooms that are power of primes. So, in the first 20 rooms, rooms 6, 14, 15, and 18 were still vacant since they are not power of primes. The problem above is called the Hilbert's Grand Hotel Paradox. It was created by David Hilbert to illustrate the counterintuitive properties of infinite sets. Diamond water paradox or paradox of value. This is a solved paradox presented by the economist Adam Smith in the 1700s. Water which is essential to life is so much cheaper than diamonds, which are not essential. But why? Why does an economy put a much lower value on something vital to sustaining life compared to something that simply looks shiny and sparkles? The answer lies in the understanding of the word scarcity and marginal utility. Scarcity is excess of human wants over what is required to satisfy these wants. Marginal utility is the additional satisfaction or gain someone gets from using or purchasing an additional unit of a particular good or service. The total utility derived from water is very high, but for most of us, the marginal utility of water is very low. We can consume as much water as we want, so the extra utility derived by the extra glass of water is very low. In contrast, the total utility derived from diamonds is much lesser than that derived from water because we consume so few of them. Consequently, the marginal utility of diamonds is much higher than marginal utility of water. It is marginal utility, not total utility, that determines the price. The higher marginal utility of diamonds is then associated with the higher price of diamonds. Note that if we were in a desert, the marginal utility of a glass of water would be huge, and no doubt we would prepare to pay a very high price for it. Demand is only half the story. Price is also determined by supply. Very few diamonds are produced, so even if the demand for diamonds is lower than demand for water, the price of diamonds could be still higher. The supply of water in a desert is very low too, and so the price of water would be much higher than normal in a desert. So those were some interesting paradoxes for you. Well, that's all for today then. If you liked today's video, then please like and share this video. Also, if you are new to this channel, then please consider subscribing to watch similar videos in future. Thanks for watching today. So until my next video, take care, stay safe and goodbye.